Bottom of what? The Dalet Amah? Yeah, so we're gonna go over a little review today. Dalet Amah Aleph on the bottom. No problem. Okay, review is always important. We have we're going to go to 4A4. 4A4. No problem. If we have a sukkah, here we're discussing the height of, we know the height of a sukkah, there's a maximum height. Can't be more than 20 amot high, right? Can't be more than 20 amot, which is around 30 to 40 feet. The sukkah can't be higher than that. But also there's a minimum. A sukkah cannot be lower than 10 tefachim, right? Let's say, we'll say a tefach is anywhere between, let's say, a little over 3 inches, between 3 and 4 inches, a tefach. So let's say the minimum height of a sukkah is around 40 inches, okay? 40 inches is a little over 3 feet. A very small height, height of a sukkah. Obviously, you'll have to come in, bend down, sit down, lay down, but you can't really stand in such a sukkah. That's the minimum height for a sukkah to be kosher. Remember, a sukkah is not a normal dwelling; it's a temporary dwelling. So it would technically be a kosher sukkah. I don't think it's the ideal sukkah to have, because you want to have a sukkah that's more similar to the way you act in your house, where you could stand properly. But technically, the sukkah would be kosher. Let's say you could understand why Hashem would say that type of sukkah would be kosher, because remember, a sukkah is a place that you're supposed to sleep in. So let's say a person will, it's very convenient if you can make such a short structure for you to sleep. So maybe that would be let's say sometimes a person will have a sukkah to sleep, a sukkah to eat, or I presume that even a person would have one sukkah, but just to make it easy for a person, that you're able, you'll sit in the sukkah, you can eat in the sukkah that's 40 inches high. You could still sit down and eat there. You could go ahead and sleep in that sukkah. So that would be, perhaps, maybe that's why Hashem made it, gave such a halacha, to make it easy for the guy who can't put together a larger sukkah. He's of minimum means, or minimum, the Jewish community will always be in different situations throughout its history, and maybe it might be difficult to build a real large structure, and we might need to build something which is not so large, so small, be able to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah. So here we have, there is a minimum, and the height is very, you only have to be 10 tvachim, 40 inches high, and has to be, and the width, let's say 7 tvachim, 28 by 28 inches. So it's a very small area, which just makes it just easy for people to fulfill the mitzvah when there's such a small height. Just suggesting that might be, the reason is not given why is such a small sukkah kosher, but I would say maybe that's just a something for the benefit of the people. Nobody's telling anyone to make a sukkah that small, but technically, if you need to, whatever the circumstance in life is, and a person needs to make a sukkah that small, he technically will be able to fulfill his obligation. So now, Jaime, any question on that?
All good.
Okay, okay. Now the Gemara says, but what happens if the sukkah if the height was too small? It wasn't even 10 tefachim high. It was less than 10 tefachim. It was less than 40 inches high. So what did the guy do? The chak haita petucha meyut tefachim was less than 10 tefachim. V'chakak ba, and he dug in the ground. He made the ground lower. Now, if you make the ground, if the floor becomes lower, that means the height from the schach to where you're standing becomes higher, because you have just dug a couple of feet out the ground. You lowered the ground. We always talk about raising ceilings or lowering ceilings. Here it's about lowering the ground and making the ground deeper. So now, okay, so it sounds good. He made it now its proper height. But The issue is, where are the walls of the sukkah? So the case here, the Gemara says, if a person digs a hole in the ground and now it makes the sukkah, the height from the ceiling to the ground higher, now you have 10 tefachim, but we know we need a minimum of 3 walls for sukkah to be kosher. So if, let's say, the whole area where you had the schach, the whole room was less than 10 tefachim, and now you dug throughout the whole room, and now you made the whole floor, you did a job on the whole floor. Now the whole floor is lower, so there's no question. The whole floor is lower, and then it's flush with the walls, and now you have a proper, everything is good. You have a proper sukkah. But that's the question. The Gemara wants to know, how far are the walls away from this digging that you did in the sukkah? How close are the walls to this place that now has the proper height of sukkah? Is the walls right next to, flush with this dig, or not? So the Gemara says, in order for the walls to be considered, that we could look at the walls as if it is that these walls are walls of this extended area, or this ground that was dug, the walls have to be within 3 tefachim. The walls have to be within about 11 inches. If the walls are within about 11 inches, or let's say if you're going to be machmir, within a little over 9 inches, because if you say a tefach, a little over 3 inches, 3 inches. So let's say if the walls are within the 3 tefachim, within around a little over 9 inches, then we look at the walls, morning Adam, as if the walls are flush with this ground that you dug deeper. Okay, let's get it clear. You dug a hole, right? Let's say you dug a hole. Here's the walls. Let's say we'll call this the walls. You dug it deeper right over here. But this where you dug deeper, now this area is kosher. Technically meaning this area has the proper height because you dug it deeper. But the question is, what is with the side, with the wall? We need to get the wall connected to this dig. Morning, Mark.
Morning, Rabbi.
Mark, we had a request to review yesterday's Gemara, so we're doing a little review on the Gemara at the bottom of the page. So the Gemara says, if you made the dig, and which now as a result of the dig, it's now proper height, but but where are your walls? So that's the question, Mr. Safdie. Is that clear? Are the walls? So if the walls are right next to where you dug, so then you exactly flush with it, you're good, because now you have proper walls that are high 10 tefachim. Because why are they high 10 tefachim? Because they are flush with this dig, with this ground, which is deep 10 tefachim, right? The ground has now been lowered, and therefore you have a proper height. So what's called the walls are connected to this area? How close do the walls have to be? Because remember, the walls itself to the schach was less than 10 tefachim. But if the walls are flush with this hole, right? So now at least you'll have from the bottom of the hole to the schach, you'll have 10 tefachim, you have the proper height. So we say it has to be within 3 tefachim. Im yesh misvat, the bottom line on the page of Dalet Amud Aleph. Im yesh misvat chakak l'kotel gimel tefachim. If the space between the hole in the ground and the wall is 3 tefachim, if it is 3 tefachim, if it is, let's say, tefach is a little over 3 inches, so 3 times that 3, a little over 9 inches or so, if you have such a space, psula. That means it is invalid. You do not connect the walls to this spot. You do not connect the walls to this hole in the ground if the walls are a distance of 3 tvachim. Is that clear? However, if the Gemara turns the page, but if pachot mishlosha tvachim, if the space between the walls, remember, the walls and the schach, the actual wall is less than 10 tvachim high. The wall itself is less than 10 tvachim high, right? But if it is pachot mishlosha tvachim, if this wall is within 3 tvachim of that hole in the ground, so now it will. What happened is now there's going to be space. There, we said there is from the bottom of the hole to the schach is 10 tvachim, right? But now, if we could have the wall, if the wall is as if it's right next to it, so now we're going to say now with this, imagine if this wall would be flush to that. So now it's considered you have a 10 tvachim wall, right? Because you have a space in the ground. Because you could look at the ground together with the wall. It's now a total of 10 tvachim high because of the raise. There was a raise of the ground, right? On the where the wall is standing. If you make a hole. If you make a hole in the ground underneath, right adjacent to the wall, now there's going to be a height. There's going to be on the side of this hole is something that's standing 10 tvachim.
So, Rabbi, the 10 tvachim starts at the lowest point of the ground where you dug.
Exactly at the lowest point of the ground, the 10 tvachim will start, and you have now a space from the bottom of the hole to 10 tvachim, and then you have and on its side it has this wall. We'll call it a wall of 10 tvachim. The wall. So now that's called a wall of 10 tvachim. Right. So you need to have all three. You have to have like 3 walls that will be considered 10 tvachim. So that's what the Gemara says, because you look at the space in the ground, like Jaime said, and the space in the ground, from the bottom of the ground of that hole where you dug adjacent to the wall is the height, now the proper height, and to its side, but standing to its side is part of the ground would be part of the wall, and then you have plus the wall itself, which now equals 10 tvachim. That's what the Gemara says. So now the Gemara has the following question. And this concept, Rashi says, is the concept called lavud. Lavud means when something is within 3 tvachim, if there's a space that's less than 3 tvachim, which if we have to be strict, if we say a tefach on the, if we're going to make it on the strict side, because you could say a tefach, let's say what we say, it's anywhere between a little over 3 inches to 4 inches. So if you want to be strict in this case, we're going to give the lower end of a tefach. We'll say if you have about 9 inches space, then you're still considered fine. You're considered joined. You're less than 3 tvachim. You're considered as if you are connected. This idea that when you have a space, it's like the halacha gives you room. What does it mean? It gives you room. You don't have to be exact. A wall, the wall doesn't have to be exactly flush with that space, which is in the ground that you dug deeper. even if the wall is not exactly flush where you started, where you made the dig, the wall is a few inches away, we're going to consider it as if the wall was joined to that space, as long as if it's joined together, as if that space that you dug is as if it's adjacent to the wall. Similarly, we have such a concept. If you have, let's say, Moni Daniel, I was thinking of you yesterday. If you have, let's say, a space, let's say, in the Succah, we're going to see more about that. If the space is less than 3 tvachim, we consider it, it's not, let's say we might not consider it we consider it still joined together. We'll have to see more about that. But there is this concept that a hole, if you have a hole less than this 3 tvachim, it's not considered, it's considered as if it's not a hole. It's considered joined together. So very good. So the Gemara is going to discuss this. That's going to be the next. That might be the Gemara's next question. So now the Gemara asks the question. We're discussing here the issue of a sukkah, the height of a sukkah, the minimum height, the maximum height, and then if you're not fulfilled, and then variations, what happens under certain circumstances. The Gemara asks the following question: Ma'ishna hatam. Why over there, regarding the platform case, which Mr. Bitesh was talking about, we said the Amrit Pachod Arba Amot. We said we had a case on the opposite side. Not that the sukkah was too short, but the sukkah was too high. We had, when the sukkah was too high, and let's say the sukkah was higher than 20 amot, higher than 30 to 40 feet. And how did you address the issue? You built a platform in middle of the sukkah. And by building the platform in the middle of the sukkah, you raise the floor of the sukkah. By raising the floor of the sukkah, now the space between the ground and the schach is now no longer higher than 20 amot. Because imagine you took the floor and you added a few feet to the floor.
It's the opposite of the pit.
It's the opposite of the pit. And what did the Gemara say over there? So now everything sounds good, right? You raised the floor, what's the issue? But the issue also over there was, if you raised the floor both all the way in the width and all the way at the length of the sukkah, you raise the floor, so then you're good. There's no question. But what you do, you only raise the floor in a certain amount of that space of the sukkah. You had the walls of the sukkah, which were higher than 20 amot, and you raised the floor, let's say, in the middle of the sukkah. And now the question is, where are my walls? I need to have, the problem is, these walls are higher than 20 amot. But it's true, it's higher than 20 amot all the way at where actually the walls are situated. But if those walls would be close to the platform, if they would be flush with the platform is not higher, then the walls will be less than 20 amot because the platform raised the ground and now you would be less than 20 amot. Is that clear, right? So now the Gemara says we also have some what we call wiggle room. This wiggle room, the Torah gives certain room. The halacha gives certain room. Well, what's the wiggle room that the halacha gave? It says, like Mr. Bitesh says, if the platform is within 4 amot of the wall, 7 feet, around 7 feet, if it's within 7 feet of the wall, then there's another halacha that kicks in, a different halacha that kicks in. What's that halacha? Called dofen akuma. Dofen akuma, it's worth it that we reviewed this Gemara for this concept. What's dofen akuma? Dofen akuma is that the halacha looks at this situation as if the wall turns. the wall is crooked. We look at this wall, the way some understand is they understand it the following. This wall, what does this wall have? It has this is the wall over here, and it has this schach over here. Now remember, this schach, then you have the platform over here. So the platform has its schach on top, which is fine because the platform to the top is now less than 20 amot. But the schach right next to this area where the platform where you did not build a platform, that schach is higher than 20 amot, right? I raised the ground over here, but I did not raise the ground over here. Mr. Safdie, is that clear? Daniel, I raised the ground here. So now by raising the ground here, so here to here is less than 20. But I did not raise the ground over here. So the ground over here to the schach is higher than 20 amot, right? I didn't raise the ground. Jaime, is that clear? I raised the ground here. I did not raise the ground here. So now we have a halacha that says that if this where I raised the ground is within 4 amot of this wall, we say as if the wall is crooked and the schach, the schach that it's connected to moves, and it moves as if it is now flush with this platform. That's called dofen akuma. The wall, which is connected with this not kosher schach. Why is this not kosher schach? Because it's higher than 20 amot. That makes it not kosher. Everything's beautiful about the beautiful bamboo, but it was higher than 20 amot. We say that. By the way, your phone is on. By the way, but we say as if it moves. That wall has moved together with its schach, and it's now flush with this. Some understand that you look as if like the whole wall just moved.
Because of the platform,
rules, right? You bent the rules, you bent the wall, and now it's flush. Some say it's like the schach has turned, and the schach is now flush with the invalid. It becomes like the wall
because of the platform, or
because this is it's adjacent to this this platform, like you said. So we have this rule that the wall, we consider the wall extends. The wall that's connected with this not kosher schach, and that's going to be, let's say, I think that the classic case of dofen akuma. Let's say you have a house, and let's say you have a room in your house that you want to make a sukkah, right? So what you do, you call the guy, and he dug a hole in your roof of that room. 1-story house, you dug a hole in the roof. Now you have your 4 walls of the room, but where did you dig the hole? You didn't dig the hole direct. You didn't dig the hole across the whole room, but one area in the room you dug the hole. Now the hole is next to cement. Then right, that hole that you dug in the ceiling is only part, and the right next adjacent to that hole is regular ceiling and that's not kosher schach. There's no schach next to that, but you made schach on this. You put schach in this hole in the ceiling. So now, can I sit under? What happens? Can I sit under the schach that's in this room? I dug a hole in the ceiling of a room. You told me your brother has such a thing. Your brother-in-law. And Mark says it's, but it depends. It's only kosher because how much his brother-in-law has such a thing. They took a room in the house, they cut a hole in the ceiling, and they put schach on it. And what are they using? They're using the walls of the house as the walls. So the walls of a house is beautiful. No problem using it as the walls. But the question is, but you have not kosher schach next to the walls, because this ceiling, real ceiling, not schach, that's next to the walls, and next to the real ceiling, let's say you have a foot 2 feet of real ceiling, and adjacent to the 2 feet of real ceiling, then he has the schach. And he's only going to sit under the hole where he only sits under the hole where the schach is. Is that a kosher sukkah or not? Can he sit under that spot where he cut out in the ceiling? So it depends. What does it depend on? This rule of dofen akuma. This rule of the wall extends that if from where he has his schach, the hole in the wall, a hole in the ceiling, is within 4 amot of the wall to the right, and within 4 amot to the wall to the left, and within 4 amot he has 3 walls. He has this hole is with. What do you say? What another hole? Right. But then you have a different question between if you have not kosher schach between this thing and another thing. That gets into a different question. But you have if you right. We say, what do we say in that case? In that case, right? We take the wall. This wall, if the wall is if this hole, he made a hole right here, and this hole where he has the ceiling is within 4 amot of the wall to the right. You extend now. So what do you do it? But there's not kosher schach here, right? He has a hole in the ceiling with kosher schach. Right next to the hole, there's this ceiling, which is not kosher schach. We extend it as if that ceiling, together with the wall, extends, and it's as if it's flush to where the hole in the ceiling is. And it'll only be able to sit in that spot, which is under the hole in the ceiling. It's like, but it's like moved over in a sense that it's a wall. The wall is extended. The ceiling is coming right. That's how some understand it. The ceiling, including the ceiling and the wall, and some understand it that the actual wall it's like the wall itself moves. Is it that the ceiling becomes the new wall, or is it that the wall itself is moved over? But the bottom line is it works. That's I think the more classic case of dofen akuma, that we say the wall extends.
Rabbi, what's the definition of dofen akuma? Those 2 words, what do they actually mean?
Right. Dofen means wall, and akuma means like crooked. That's crooked. The crooked wall. So now, I mentioned yesterday in the art scroll, there is a nice note in 4A3. If you look at 4A3, it says, the Gemara, the third wall is by operation. It's an operation of halacha l'Moshe Sinai called the law of the bent wall. How do you like that? That's what it's called. I like that, Daniel. The law of the bent wall. This law allows us to qualify a sukkah by bending up to slightly less than 4 amot of its wall. That is, right. That is, we view, so he takes the position of one of the Rishonim. We view the schach that abuts the distant wall as part of the wall itself, as a curved extension, like you said, that continues until it is exactly opposite, flush with the edge of that platform. Now, that is one understanding in the Rishonim. I saw yesterday in the Encyclopedia Talmudist that they bring a different understanding than this. They're quoting that the Encyclopedia Talmudist brings down the other Rishonim hold. We look at it as if the wall itself moved, not that the schach is the thing that has moved. Okay, whatever it is, it works. That is the law of the curved wall. People know in sports the curved ball. This is the curved wall. This is what we got to think about when you go to, when you're watching, listening to a game, and they talk about a curveball. We're supposed to be thinking about, okay, curveball. I got to think about the curved wall. I got to talk about the curved wall that we learned about in the Gemara. Now, the Gemara says, why do we give the person, when it comes to this wall, this dofen akumah with the platform case, we give the guy, so we have this rule called dofen akumah. We have this rule that we give the guy, he has 4 amot from the place where he made his platform. If he makes his platform right here, and as a result of making the platform, he raised the ground. And now that the ground is raised, so it's within 20 amot of the ceiling. So he's within 20 amot of the Succah. We say, even though the walls are not directly next to him, as long as the wall is within, the walls to his right, to his left, to his side, is within 4 amot, we extend, using the rule of dofen akumah, we extend the wall as if it's flush with the platform. And if it's flush with the platform, so it's no longer higher than 20 amot. Because if you take a wall over there, that there's a certain height from the ground to the ceiling. But if that wall would be right over here, flush to here, that wall has now lost some of its height. Because the raise of the ground has taken away some of the height. So the Gemara wants to know, why is it when it comes to over there by the raised platform, we say you get 4 amot, and when it comes to this digging in the ground, when he lowered the ground, when he dug in the ground, we say he doesn't get why don't we also give him 4 amot? Why don't we say, if he dug in the ground, we should say, if the hole in the ground is within 4 amot of the wall, we should extend the wall. Remember, the problem is that the wall is less than 10 tefachim. But if you would say dofen akuma on that wall, if you would bend that wall that was within 4 amot, and you would bend it next to this dig in the ground, then it would be a kosher wall. But that's what the Gemara is going to answer. The Gemara's question was, why don't we apply the same principle of dofen akuma? Extend that wall by the case when you dug in the ground, the same way you extend the wall when you make the platform. Why don't you extend the wall when you made the dig in the ground? That was the Gemara's question. If you extend that wall, if you look at it as if that wall is right over here, so then you would have a proper wall for this thing that you dug in the ground. Because once you dug in the ground, now there's a space from the bottom to the schach of 10 tefachim. So the Gemara's answer is like Mark said. The rule of dofen akuma means a wall, morning Jay, that a wall could extend, but it has to be a wall. You have to first have the basics. The wall with something that's less than 10 tefachim, when you have a wall that's the height of a wall is less than 10 tefachim, it's not a wall. It's some sort of mound. It's some sort of, you don't call that a wall. So therefore, it cannot work with the rules of extended, of dofen akuma, that the wall has extended. So therefore, it has to work with a different rule.
What's the height that makes it?
10 tefachim. It has to be, let's say, around 40 inches. If it's less than 40 inches, it's not a wall. So therefore, it cannot use that principle of dofen akuma. However, right, like Mark said yesterday. You said yesterday about, let's say we use it as a wall for a terrace. So that you have to be at least 10 tefachim. A mechitza 10 tefachim high. Right, because that's
It's not a wall.
it's not 10 tefachim. It's not a wall. Exactly. I mean, you're saying it's based on our Gemara earlier, because it's called a separate reshut, maybe like we're gonna see. It's a separate area when you have some sort of wall that creates it, that type of. But the fact that it has that height. It's coming up. We didn't discuss exactly what is it based from. You know, really, the Gemara is going to say it's halacha Moshe Sinai. At the end of the day, it's right. It's going to be we have some. You know, we on our own we would not have come up with that idea of that 10 tefachim, but that's the height that's considered significant to separate. That's called a separation. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara answers, again, the Gemara is, why over here it's 3 tvachim and not 4 amot. So the Gemara is, hatam the itel dofen. Over there, when it's higher than 20 amot, a wall higher than 20 amot is a wall. It's a massive wall. Therefore, we could say such a thing, but for Sukkah, that wall, that's not kosher because there's a halachic point that a sukkah can't be higher than 20 amot. So that type of wall, which is a wall, we could bend that wall. That wall could bend. A wall that's higher than 20 amot could bend because it's a wall. However, a wall that's less than 10 tefachim is not a wall, and therefore there's no rule of wall bent, dofen akuma, by such a wall. And therefore that rule doesn't apply. Therefore, the only rule that will apply there is if it's within 3 tvachim for wall. If something is within 3 tvachim, is within, let's say, 9 inches or so, it's considered a joint to that spot. And that's how we're allowed to go ahead and use that wall if it's within 3 tvachim of this hole, good morning, of this hole in the ground. Okay, I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and we'll be back tomorrow. And we're giving everybody homework. We gave homework yesterday. We're going to repeat the homework assignment. Everyone to bring another person to the class. Have a great day, everybody. I got a good smile on that one.
Bye, Rabbi.
Yeah, welcome back, Jaime.
Thank you.
Welcome. Take care. Bye-bye. He came back at a real douche.